Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to set up Adobe Illustrator to do these stencil cutouts on the laser cutter. Okay, to set up a stencil pattern like this, we need to have a really tight pattern, something that's repeatable and very small so that we can pick up the details such as that on our outline here. We also need an object that's easily recognized in silhouette. Some objects just look normal, but when you cut them out like this, they won't look like anything specific. This is clearly a candlestick, so I just found a dumb picture on the internet, and I'm going to go in on Photoshop, go to my adjustments, levels, and I'm going to crush it one way or the other until it turns a solid color. Hit OK, and I'm going to save it as a ping file. Okay, over here in Illustrator, you can see that my outline the outline that's inside the circle of the embroidery hoop is about 1 inch smaller. So this black line represents the embroidery hoop, which is 14 inches. And we're not going to have that in our file. It's just there for reference. We're going to utilize a 13-inch circle as part of our cutout. We're going to create a pattern. In Illustrator, the big thing is that any kind of the traditional ways to make patterns don't really work well, and here's why. When you look inside of the layer here, this is a grid repeat. So in other words, one of the new functions in Illustrator is I could make a repeat out of a shape, go to Object, Repeat, Grid, and then I can click and drag out a pattern. But the problem is you can see what this pattern is. It's a grid repeat, and the laser cutter doesn't know what to do with that. If I go over here, here's another way that you've probably learned in the past. You can make an object, go to Object, Pattern, Make, hit OK, and then change the attributes here. But again, the problem with making a pattern fill is that with an object like this, inside the pattern, it's either the original shape or it's an ellipse. And the laser cutter doesn't know to cut out these individual shapes. So it needs something really specific to cut out. So unfortunately, you have to do this the old school way. You gotta make a pattern and do it manually. So let me show you how I did this one. I made something really tight. So in other words, the smaller the pattern, the more elements in there, the more your detail is gonna show up. And so if you have big ellipses, it's gonna be harder to read. So I'm going to use the Alt, click, and drag method. So it's Option, click and drag on a Mac, Alt, click and drag on a PC. And I'm just going to bring up maybe 4 shapes to start with. Try and get them parked pretty close together. And then Alt, click, and drag again. And I'm doing a brick offset, something like that. And you can start Alt, click, and drag again, doing it quickly and trying to be a little more accurate. I also leave the fill turned on because alt click and dragging is harder to do without a fill. Okay, once you have these filled in an area that you think will work, and let me delete these other ones off the screen here, you're going to want to create an ellipse. So I'll delete my original one and show you. Just come over to the ellipse tool, turn off fill, have stroke turned on, and just click once and make yours 13 inches by 13 inches and place it over top. So now we can start cutting it out. To begin with, I want to make sure my ellipse is up on top, and that's just so I can keep track of it. And then I'm going to click and select everything with the selection tool. I'll come up here and I'm going to turn off fill. And I'm going to leave my stroke turned on to like somewhere between 5 and 7. The reason is I'll be able to see what I'm doing here. And to begin with, you can just kind of delete some of these extra ones. Now that I have all of my extra ones overhanging, turned off, or deleted, I'm going to select everything again. And now I'm going to go over to this Shape Builder tool. Everything from here on out is going to be a subtraction. So the Shape Builder tool will get rid of elements you don't need. So for example, if I hold down that Alt or Option key again, you can see how I can back off and get rid of some of those. You can also click into the main circle to cut out the entire edge. And now it leaves a remnant. That's what you want. You can Alt, click, and drag around all of the remaining elements that you don't need. Okay, now you have your entire circle cut out. Let's add something on top. Find that ping file and bring it in so it's about the size of your document here. Now we're going to image trace it. The image trace button is up here, and then the little menu for it is right here. When we have the menu open, you'll want to be under the Advanced tab. Make sure that Ignore Color is checked on. That way you don't have any white background. Once you're done, come up and hit Expand, and that will turn that shape into a vector. Now with the Move tool, you can scale it again if you want. Select everything again. Grab that Shape Builder tool, and now, carefully, you can go in with the Alt Option key again. See how it turns it minus? You click it, and we'll get rid of that chunk, that big piece. Same thing for the flame here. I'm going to hold down the Alt Option key and click it once. Anything that's left over that's solid black, we also want to Alt click and drag across, just like we did with the outer borders. And you can see if I had a smaller or a bigger pattern here, the little details wouldn't show up. So you need more background for this method to work. In other words, you need a smaller, tighter pattern. Great, now everything's cut out. The last step is to select it all again, just to be sure you have everything. Turn the stroke on, and make sure the stroke is set to 0.001. What will be revealed are a couple extra hangouts that you might have missed. Grab the Shape Builder tool again with everything selected, and go back and use the Alt-click method to get rid of them. Here, one thing you can see inside of my layers is that I have all paths now. That's perfect because Illustrator knows what paths are. Last thing, make sure that everything is set as a path, and anything that's labeled as a group. You can see right here, this is a group and it has highlighted those. You can select it here with the donut and delete it. And now my layer is nice and clean. Any extra layers that you have, get rid of them. Make sure only the things you need are in this project file. And this is what you're going to be sending to the laser cutter.